Hello everyone, my name is Yasin, and today I'll show you how you can control your light using Jira. If you have a light bulb connected to the internet, probably using your Alexa device or Google Home, then you can connect it to Jira and control its status using Jira functionalities. And to do this, we will need a couple of components, which I'll as well present, and I'll show you how you can configure the different systems and connect them together. So the idea is I create a ticket in Jira, and by changing the status of that ticket, I get to change the status of my light. So if the ticket status is on, then I'll have the light being turned on. And if it is off, then the light will be turned off. Let's get through the tutorial. To realize the scenario, we will need a couple of stuff. Basically, we need three different systems. So the first one is Jira, and the second system is the IFTTT, and the third system is Alexa. So this is in my case. In your case, it could be something a bit different. Like instead of having Alexa, you can have Google Home. So the idea is to control the status of the light, which is connected to Alexa, using my Jira tickets.
Mit der Verbindung zum Netzwerk. Bitte versuche es später. Ich habe Probleme mit der Verbindung zum Netzwerk. Bitte versuche es später noch einmal.
So you need Jira admin access. You need IFTTT account. It's for free as well. And you need, of course, to have Alexa or any other cloud-based smart home control systems. So when you change the status of your Jira ticket, that will trigger, of course, a workflow. And within that workflow, we will trigger a post function. And that post function will trigger a webhook. So a webhook is just calling servers using a URL, and that will trigger on the background some other events on other systems. And that system, in our case, is IFTTT. So IFTTT is a platform where you can connect different systems together using APIs. With IFTTT, you can realize a lot of great scenarios. Like you'd say, if the garage door gets opened, I should receive an email. It's really a great platform to use and test some cool stuff. So with Alexa, you can control your local smart home devices just by using your voice or the app. So when we trigger a post function, it will trigger a webhook, which will communicate with IFTTT. So in IFTTT, we need webhooks, and we need the send Alexa action by MK10s. Both are IFTTT services, which you can use for free. So once that webhook service within IFTTT gets triggered using that webhook within Jira, it will communicate with send Alexa action, and it will then trigger a routine in Alexa. And routine in Alexa is just a combination of events and actions. So you'd say, if I receive action light on trigger, then I would turn the light on. So that's the idea, basically. All right, let's move to the implementation. So first, we need to create a Jira project, and we need to configure workflows. So it's a good demo as well of how you can create workflows and how you can configure them. And we need, in this case, a workflow with two statuses. I would call it my smart home control system using Jira, and MSH for my smart home as a key. I will choose a process. So make sure to choose here business, because in this case, we need a simple project. We create the project, and then we can create a ticket, which we'll use as the basis to control our system. And I would say light control unit, and I click on that. And my idea, of course, is to have here, instead of open in progress, two possibilities, on or off. And to do that, we can go to settings, and then issues, and then we go to workflow, and now we create new workflow. So by default, you will always get this open status, and before removing that, we can create new status, which is on, and a status off. So when tickets are created, instead of going to open, we will go to off. So light, supposing that the light is by default off, we will remove the open status because we don't need it in this case. And we would say, I can go anytime to off, and I can go anytime to on. And this setup is enough to test, of course, the idea. So we then go to workflow scheme, and then we go to the MSH workflow scheme. And here we would choose an existing workflow, which we just created. Select, and then click on next. And we would say this is by default for all the tickets, and then publish. So let's go back to the project and check how the ticket now looks like. And we see here it has two different options. So the light can be off or on. Let's put it on off. So this is not all, it's just the basis of our information system. So now we are partly done with the Jira configuration, and we would go to the IFTT and do the further settings. So now let's move to the IFTT configuration part. In IFTT, we will create an account, configure an applet, and for that we will use a webhook listener and an Alexa action. Just click on continue with Google if you have a Google account. So click on create. So the idea is that when our webhook gets triggered, we will send an action to Alexa. And for that, we can click on if this happens, and that's webhook. And we give our web request a name, and in this case, light on. If we receive that event, light on, then we will go and trigger Alexa event using this service, which is called Alexa Action by MKSense. With this service, Alexa Action by MKSense, you can connect up to 3 triggers to Alexa. So now to configure this service, I would recommend to use your mobile phone. Go to the Alexa app and then do skills and look for IFTT trigger. Click on that. And now you have a couple of options. So you can select 3 Alexa triggers for free, or you can say unlimited, and that costs $5 yearly. Of course, choose your region so that the service reacts, of course, quicker. And then let's give this one light on, this one light off. And the third trigger, we can just ignore it and then click on next. So the integration between go to devices and then all devices, then you would see here light off, light on, and the IFT trigger number 3, which we won't use in this demo. And notice that light on and light off, it will act exactly as a sensor. So it will sense an event, and then it will trigger a routine within Alexa. But before configuring that, let's go and carry on the setup on the IFTT web. So since we connected our account, we can just click on Alexa Action by MKSense. Choose that one. And as we said, the first action is that we would like to turn the light on. So select the light on action and voila. So when we receive a web request through that webhook, we will send an action to Alexa saying, turn the light on. Continue and finish. Now we created an applet, but we need a specific URL for that webhook, which we will then use in Jira. Go to Webhook and then click on documentation. Each account in IFTT gets a sort of a URL with a key, and depending on how many events you've created or used in the different applets, you can just enter the event name there and you will trigger that specific event. So in this case, our event is light minus on. And what we can do, just copy that. And we can just trigger this using a browser. We now triggered the event to trigger the action to trigger Alexa routine. All right, so we have the URL, and that is very, very important URL. So just copy it, and let's go back to Jira. So in Jira, we need to do another workflow configuration. So when we think of workflow configuration, always go to settings and then issues. And here you find workflow, search that specific workflow that you want to edit, in this case, the MSH workflow light, and go to edit. In this case, we would like to configure on, so click on transition, and then go to post functions, and then add a post function and select trigger a webhook. So webhooks should be registered in Jira before. You cannot just trigger any URL or any webhook. So you need first to register that in your system, and to do that, go to administration and then system, and then webhooks. Create a webhook, give it a name, paste the URL. Notice here the light on, and just click on create. Now go back to the workflow and just refresh that page, and you will see here the just created webhook, which we now can use. So select that one. So we create the service for the light on, and we'll do the same for the light off. And to do that, just go on IFTT and then create, and then select if this, then look for webhook, receive a web request, and we call that light off. So if light off event gets triggered, then we will trigger the Alexa action. We will send an event to Alexa saying turn the light off, and that's it. We just created now the second applet, so publish that. So hello everyone again. I had a problem with my internet since 2 days. and I couldn't finish the tutorial. We checked a couple of stuff. We created a workflow in Jira for the on and the off status, and we created in the IFTT the two functions to listen to the webhook, and if the event gets triggered from Jira using that URL for on and another URL for the off, then we'll translate that into an Alexa action, which will trigger then an Alexa routine. So what we are missing are two things. We need to configure the Alexa routine, and then we need to connect the Jira with the IFTT, and we can then test our scenario. So let's configure Alexa using the mobile. So click on Add Routine, give the routine a name. In this case, call it light on. And we will listen to the trigger from the IFTT, click the light on, which we already configured and created. And then we add actions. We go to our smart home devices and then light. Let's select the light that we would like to turn on or off and select the action. In this case, we want it to be on, and then go to actions and the other light. So in this case, the living room, and we would like to turn it on and save. The same thing we would like to do with the light off. So we can test using Alexa that we are turning the light on and off. So that's the light that I'm trying to control. And if I click on off, the light will be turned off. And if I click on, the light will be turned on with some delay. And what we would like to do is to trigger those Alexa routines using that webhook that we created. Copy the link for the light on. Go here and change that to off. And we turn the light off using the web browser. So now if I click on, it's not working. So let's check the configuration on IFTT. So one thing we should verify and fix is the event names, because if the events are capital or they have space in them, then the URLs won't really trigger the correct event. So let's go to home on IFTT side, and then let's make sure that the event names within these two applets are correctly given. So open the first one and the second one, and click on settings, and then make sure that light off is correctly written, or make sure that you copy that name and post it in the Jira webhook and with those correct event names. And if you have a different capital or space, then you won't really trigger that event and your test will fail. So make sure that the names are correct. And save. And let's make sure as well that light on is correctly written. Light on. All right, so now the light is on, and if I give off, then it goes off. And again, let's test it with on. It takes some time, but it will work. And yeah, it took some seconds because the systems are not, of course, real-time systems. They are web-based services. So now let's make sure that these URLs that we created are correctly given in Jira as a webhook. So that's the light on, and it's correct. And now let's create another webhook. Call it light off. And we give that URL, but we make sure that we here write off event. All right, so now we have the two webhooks correctly configured with the right URLs, and we would like to use them in our workflow in our project. So as a reminder, we created a Jira project here called My Smart Home Control System using Jira. And within that project, we created a ticket called Light Control Unit with the number MSH1. And the idea is that when I change the status here, that will trigger a workflow post function. And that workflow post function will trigger a webhook, which is an IFTT platform, and that will trigger an Alexa routine using actions. So now we are missing the post functions in the workflows. So what we can do, go to workflow, edit, and then make sure that you go to diagram and select the transition going to off and click on post function, and then add post function, and then trigger a webhook. All right, and let's make sure as well that the on transition has that correct post function. So this is the light on transition, and here we have send transition to webhook, light on. And when you're done with editing your workflow, just click on publish. All right, so now we finished the connection between Jira and Alexa. So we have all the components that we need. We have the Jira ticket that will trigger IFTT webhook using post functions. And then we connected as well IFTT with Alexa. And what we now can do is test for the first time by changing the status of the ticket if the light will turn on or off. So go here to your ticket, and then let's click on light on. So we suppose that nothing should happen, and nothing is happening, which is good. And now let's click on off, and the light gets turned off. And if we click on, then the light turns on. And that's quite, a nice way how you can connect Jira with other systems. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and see you on the next one. Ciao. I forgot to turn the lights on.